In Disney's lengthy history, there have been more than a few iconic performances that have brought its film's characters to life. Can you imagine anyone besides Robin Williams as the animated Aladdin's big blue wish-granting sidekick? Could anyone straddle sinister and silly as effectively as James Woods as Hercules' villainous Hades? What about Eddie Murphy's unforgettable turn as the voice of Mulan's dragon MUSHU? The voice work of these actors has become as important to these characters as their animated looks. Yet, while it's hard to imagine anyone else playing these roles, it could have happened. The powers that be at Disney often consider many actors for their films, and that means that things might have turned out very differently for some characters. In this video, we're taking a deep dive into some of the beloved Disney characters who were intended for a different actor. Some of the original choices for these roles were amazing performers, but we think you'll breathe a sigh of relief that things turned out the way they did. It seems like Beyoncé can do pretty much anything she wants. Yet Disney denied her the role of Princess Tiana in 2009's The Princess and the Frog. The reason? Queen Bee refused to audition. It seems the superstar expected an offer without a tryout, but Disney had too many good options to risk it. Tyra Banks, Alicia Keys, and Jennifer Hudson wanted the role too, and they auditioned, sometimes more than once. Ultimately, the coveted part went to Anika Noni Rose because she was the most qualified. Beyoncé couldn't have felt too badly about how things turned out. She voiced the role of the adult version of the lioness Nala in 2019's live-action remake of The Lion King. Filmmakers even made sure to expand the part so her character has more to do than in the animated original. Most seem to love Beyoncé's turn as the fierce feline, and it seems Beyoncé did too. Not only did she record a new song for the movie, she produced a whole album with music from and inspired by the film. Joe Pesci may have been nominated for a Best Supporting Actor award in the 2020 Oscars, but he's been mostly retired from acting for years. Since he's made himself scarce, it's hard to remember that in the 80s and 90s, he was a huge star. Not only did he frequently show up in dramatic roles, he also easily stepped into comedies like My Cousin Vinny. So when it came time for Disney to choose someone to voice Mushu in 1998's Mulan, Pesci seemed like a great choice. Apparently, Mushu went through a lot of different physical forms as well. Animators drew him as a phoenix and a two-headed lizard before they settled on a dragon. Pesci might have worked for some of the other iterations of the character. But once Mushu was officially a dragon, Disney's head honcho at the time, Michael Eisner, ultimately decided Murphy should get the role. Of course, Eddie Murphy would go on to voice the donkey in the Shrek movies. Meanwhile, as far as we know, Pesci hasn't taken on any voice acting roles at all. Still, that may be for the best. If Pesci had voiced Mushu or another animated character, we could have gotten this.
But I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you, I make you laugh, I'm here to amuse you.
You might be wondering who's voicing Mushu in the Mulan remake. The answer is nobody. This time, Mushu isn't part of the story, which could be a good or bad thing depending on your perspective. When Disney was casting its 2017 live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast, they pursued Ryan Gosling for the role. Apparently, filmmakers felt the actor was the perfect option to bring the fur and fangs of the beast to life. And maybe Gosling would have considered it if another movie hadn't come his way, a little film called La La Land. Ultimately, Gosling went on to score an Oscar nomination for his work in the musical Love Letter to Los Angeles. And it was probably easier than acting behind all kinds of CGI. Interestingly, the Beauty and the Beast remake and La La Land were also competing for another actor, Emma Watson. Watson was offered the part that ultimately went to Emma Stone in La La Land. Watson turned it down, though, because she'd wanted to play Belle in Beauty and the Beast for a long time. It's hard not to imagine what Beauty and the Beast would have been like with Gosling as the beastly romantic lead, or what La La Land would have been like had Watson decided to star in that musical instead. Today, Amy Poehler is best known for playing the eternally optimistic Leslie Knope on the sitcom Parks and Recreation. She's also known for playing the eternally optimistic emotion Joy in Disney Pixar's Inside Out. Before she became Joy, though, she was in the running to play Rapunzel in Disney's 2010 movie Tangled. Even though Rapunzel eventually learns she's a princess, she doesn't start out with that knowledge. So filmmakers wanted to find someone who wouldn't voice the character as aloof and royal. They wanted someone who could be quirky and warm, and Poehler certainly fit the bill. Ultimately, the role went to actor and singer Mandy Moore, and it's hard to imagine anyone replacing her interpretation of the character now.
Was I wearing a tiara when I came in here? Because if you happen upon it, will you have Lady Pennyface retrieve it and send it post-hence?
Besides, Poehler's turn as Joy was arguably an even better fit for her than Rapunzel. While she might not be a Disney princess, she did star in a blockbuster Pixar film that meant a lot to a lot of people. And it's just as hard to imagine anyone besides Poehler in her role in Inside Out as it is imagining anyone besides Moore as Rapunzel. Today, Jim Carrey is primarily known as a comedic actor. And for anyone who's seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective or Sonic the Hedgehog, he's a pretty over-the-top one too. Before he made it big though, Carrey auditioned to voice Prince Eric in 1989's The Little Mermaid, a role lacking any element that's remotely zany. Apparently, he almost got the part too. Ultimately, it didn't work out. But it seems like this might have worked out for the best. Carrey landed his role on the sketch show In Living Color shortly afterwards, and the rest is history. He even played the romantic lead in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a role that may shed the most light on what his Prince Eric could have been like. Despite his high profile and bonkers energy, Carrey hasn't done too much voice work in animated films. While you'd think he'd be a good choice for many roles, his only noteworthy animation credit is the title character in 2008's Horton Hears a Who. Go figure.
I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming.
William H. Macy is a great actor who has always specialized in a sort of funny cynicism. That's probably why he's best known for the movie Fargo and his run as alcoholic patriarch Frank Gallagher on the TV series Shameless. Yet he was very nearly the voice of Marlin in Finding Nemo. And this isn't a situation where Macy simply auditioned for the role and didn't get the part. He was actually cast and recorded the entire thing. After an early screening, though, filmmakers discovered Macy wasn't really bringing what they needed to the film. That's when they decided to replace him with Albert Brooks, who had always been director Andrew Stanton's first choice anyway. Brooks brought a warmth and tenderness to Marlin that Macy apparently just didn't. As a result, Brooks's performance completely changed the tone of the film. And it probably worked better with Ellen DeGeneres' Dory, too. Through the years, Bill Murray has voiced quite a few animated characters. He was the dog boss in Isle of Dogs and Badger in Fantastic Mr. Fox, both directed by his frequent collaborator Wes Anderson. He played the title cat in multiple Garfield movies. He even showed up in Disney's live-action remake of The Jungle Book as the voice of Baloo. One voice role he missed out on, however, was Sully in Monsters, Inc., and the reason is pure Murray. Murray's known to be a bit of an eccentric. In line with that, at one point he decided to fire his agent and instruct anyone who wanted to reach him for roles to call an 800 number. Needless to say, this meant quite a few opportunities passed him by, including the lead role in Monsters, Inc. Filmmakers tried to get a hold of him to offer him the part, but when they didn't hear back, they figured he didn't want it. That's when John Goodman landed the role. Murray's Sully would likely have been very different from Goodman's. Murray has a laid-back presence that's completely unique to him, and Goodman brought a tenderness to Sully's relationship with Boo that Murray probably wouldn't have gone for. Still, it's hard not to wonder what might have been with this one. At least we know Murray's voiced at least one fuzzy monster. The look and voice of The Incredibles' master supersuit designer Edna Mode was based on renowned costume designer Edith Head, but the character still required someone to provide her vocals. Lily Tomlin gamely stepped into the role, yet things changed when director Brad Bird filled in for her during a reading. Tomlin herself couldn't imagine being funnier than Bird was as the fabulous fashionista, so Bird inadvertently landed himself a role in his own movie. And he did such a good job in it, the character quickly became iconic, even though she appeared in just a few scenes. Tomlin may have bowed out of The Incredibles, but she hasn't exactly been a stranger to voice acting. She's lent her vocals to a number of animated characters. They've included Miss Frizzle in The Magic School Bus, Putsy Hodge in Web Therapy, and even Aunt May in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. But when it comes to Edna Mode, we think she made the right choice stepping aside for Brad Bird. Today, James Woods is Hercules Hades. You can hear his voice in your mind with just a glance at the snarky, sinister, flame blue-haired king of the underworld. Yet Woods was far from the first choice to take on the role. That honor goes to the one and only Jack Nicholson. In fact, filmmakers pursued Nicholson pretty seriously for the character. They designed a version of Hades who has a lot of Jack Nicholson's features, including his eyebrows and ubiquitous sunglasses. Then they brought him to the studio and even showed him some test footage of the character backed by audio of him in a scene from A Few Good Men. Nicholson liked what he saw and was ready to hop aboard the film. But things devolved when the subject of money came up. Disney wasn't willing to meet Nicholson's rich salary requirements. Once things fell through, the filmmakers were back at square one with both the character's voice and look. After all, while Nicholson certainly has a devilish charm, his Hades probably would be very different from any other actors. Luckily, Disney finally landed on casting James Woods, and the version of Hades we know and love was born. When Toy Story came out, it was the first movie of its kind, an entirely computer-animated production. That also meant the medium was completely untested, and many people didn't have faith that it would work out. One of those people was Billy Crystal. Disney wanted Crystal to play Buzz Lightyear. They even created test footage of the character with Crystal's voice as the audio.
Right now, everything is great. Everyone is happy, everyone is in love, and that's wonderful.
Even though Crystal was impressed, he was also wary of getting involved, so he said no to the role. Crystal admits he regrets the decision now, but also says that Tim Allen was probably better for the role than him. A role that fit him far better was the one-eyed little green monster Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc. Crystal brought manic, wisecracking energy to the flummoxed scare assistant, and we can't imagine it any other way. Who knows which actors will voice iconic roles in Disney movies of the future? Emma Stone's about to embody a young Cruella de Vil in an upcoming film. And Robert Downey Jr. is in the running to play both Pinocchio and Geppetto. Are there any other characters you know of who could have played a Disney role until things went a different way? Fill us in the comments. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to The Binger. Thanks for watching.